Ole Miss in Florida this week. The playoffs are on the line. Everything you could want as an Ole Miss fan. Well, almost. Anyway, let's talk to the mayor of Corinth and figure out what's going on.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I am your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is now the number one sports podcast network in the United States. Thank you for that. On today's show, we'll talk about the Ole Miss and Florida game that is coming up. We'll do a little coaching search stuff as well. Everybody knows it's been all a flutter. On Thursday, it came out. And we'll also talk about why the playoffs are still the most important thing to think about and not take your eyes off the prize. Anyway, I'm going to be joined by the mayor of Corinth, Tom Vanderford. Remember, we're free and available and on all podcast apps and YouTube. And a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make this show what it is, your team every day. All right, Tom, this is a weird week. I mean, we got to the point. I was the person that just quote tweeted the infamous tweet by John Sokoloff, and John deleted it. So I was the one that got that tweet deleted because I basically posted that, hey, are we to that time of the year again? Time flies, talking about how Lane Kiffin's going to take another job season or whatever like that. But we'll get to that in just a second. First of all is the Ole Miss Florida game. This is a Florida team that got completely boat raced by Kentucky. Like terribly boat raced, like 38-7, and Kentucky did not punt in the entire game.
Right.
Ole Miss is favored by 14.5 points. They should win the game. What are your thoughts going in?
Oh, my thoughts are that the team hopefully is going to look past the distractions, and the coaching staff is going to have them laser focused. And as Kewan Lacey says, we do a little BTA tonight in the stadium there at Vaught-Hemingway.
Yeah, after what happened during this week, that is not going to be a hospitable place. If you are any Florida fans listening to this, do not travel to Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Just don't go there. Don't wear orange. Don't. It's just not worth it. It is going to be an extremely hostile environment because of, honestly, this situation that Lane Kiffin let develop. He let it happen. He set it up if there's a distracted team. If Ole Miss, for some reason, loses the game, if Ole Miss misses their opportunity to go to the college football playoff because of this silliness, it is on him 100%. And I will rail on him until the moment he walks out the door if that happens. But the way it is situated, you have the Ole Miss fan base going to a game with a chance to be rowdy as heck for Ole Miss to make the college football playoff, so they would already be up really high. But with all of this other circus stuff going on, this place is going to be outright hostile.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever said a bad word on your podcast, but some of these people from Florida are Florida fans on the, at least on Twitter and other forms of social media. If they go to this game and they present themselves like they do on social media, somebody's going to tote an ass whooping, and that's life.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You may think you're tough. You may think you're Twitter tough. I do not recommend taking that attitude into the Grove on Saturday because you will end up visiting our great hospital at Baptist Memorial in Oxford if that happens. It just will. And nobody, by the way, just so you know, nobody will tell on the person that did it to the police when they show up.
That's right.
Yeah, it's going to happen. So be careful, be nice, and probably would be best to stay at the house if we're going to be honest, because my goodness, this game has a chance to be so hostile.
Oh yeah.
That's just my public service announcement. It's going to be hostile in that stadium. Be careful.
Yeah, and I think I honestly hope it doesn't, but I think it'll carry over to the teams as well.
Yeah, and there could be a chippiness. Now, there's a couple of where Florida's good players are basically out of the game. I mean, they're gone. You got Jaden Baugh, and I guess DJ Lagway would be on the second most known offensive player for Florida. It's going to be on Pete Golding. If they show up, if they do what they're supposed to do defensively, the Ole Miss offense can score. Ole Miss scores 30 points in this game, they're going to win it. Florida has scored over 25 twice against Power 5 opponents. So if you can front run a little bit, you're probably going to win this game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it'll be at least interesting. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about this coaching search just a little bit because what could happen with the mayor of Corinth. So stick around for that. You know, it's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every single Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more money each and every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss delivered in a big way. He went 29 of 33 for 333 yards and 3 touchdowns. This is sponsored by the number 3 against the Citadel in about a half of work. When the pressure was on, he came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance was not a fluke. Trinidad Chambliss is on a streak. And just like Trinidad Chambliss delivered for Ole Miss, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save each and every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep this streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period runs through November 18th. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcatcher you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keep all of this for free. Locked On is getting ready to change the game again, all in the name of having fun following your team. They just launched the beta version of their new Discord where every Locked On audience has access to this one place. It's going to be subscription-based. There's a program that's coming up December 8th. We're going to tell you all about it, but trust me, it is really cool. And thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in America. We couldn't help but thank you for that. All right, Tommy. So let's talk a little bit about the coaching search. I mean, it's been all over the news in the latter part of the week from Florida sources, Ole Miss sources, everybody going back and forth. And I'm not going to mention anybody by name because I don't want to put them on blast. But the interview with Florida, they all expect after the Egg Bowl that Lane Kiffin is just going to announce that he's going to Florida. And I was on a podcast, High Top Sports. That's a Florida podcast in Florida. And they asked the question. It's like, okay, if this goes on, would you be okay with him coaching the playoff? And it's like, no, absolutely not.
Nope.
If he takes the Florida job after the Egg Bowl, he doesn't get to coach that game. He gets to try to make the playoff somewhere else and start the rebuild all the way over because Ole Miss isn't going to let him coach that game. Now, they won't fire him because they're not going to pay a buyout, but they'll take him off the field. They'll reassign him to janitorial services or something like that on Ole Miss's campus, but they're not going to let him coach that game. So this is the problem that I have with all of this, okay? If you take that into account, Florida wants a coach in as soon as possible so staffs can be built and all of that stuff. And even if Lane Kiffin is going to take that job, let's just for devil's advocate say that he is going to take that job. he's not going to go public because it will cost him coaching the playoffs, and that playoff means more than anything to him, which means Florida has to wait until the end of December, at least potentially early January, and with nothing being signed, because he's not going to sign anything. He's not going to sign anything that can be traced back, because if that happens, he is going to lose the ability to coach that playoff game. With nothing signed, you're at the point of where whimsical Lane Kiffin can come in, to where you thought he was in the bag for 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden he just decided to stay at Ole Miss. And I think potentially, no matter how good they think about Lane Kiffin going into after the Egg Bowl, if he waits a week, a two, nothing happens, all of a sudden there's going to be some people getting antsy.
Yeah. And that's on either side. And, let me go ahead and say this. This is my feelings on this. If he stays, I think that's wonderful. I've said before, we'll build a statue. We'll do all kinds of stuff. But if he decides he wants to leave, he has left Ole Miss in a much better place than we were when he got there. And we still have a wonderful NIL. We still have plenty of money for good coaches. So, yeah, it would sting, but it wouldn't be like in the past when Tuberville left.
Yeah, here's the difference, though. If that transfer portal window comes open and that happens and players go out, he could leave this program in worse shape than it was when he got there. Now, the next coach can build back up. Ole Miss has proven they'll pay for a coach. Ole Miss has proven they've got NIL money. But you are going from here down to here. And Lane would have to own that, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could be wrong, but I don't think his defensive coordinator goes with him.
I don't think I think Pete Golding is retained, period, no matter who the coach is.
I could be wrong, but the heart of that defense is loyal to Pete Golding, especially the Mississippi kids. And but yeah, you're right. The offense would probably suffer somewhat. But we'll have to wait to see. This is all just prognostication. But
okay, real quick. Let's do the hypothetical game about this. Let's say that Lane Kiffin skedaddles off to Gainesville and all of that stuff, and they pay $15 million. That's the rumored number for a coach. $15 million. Okay, whatever. That's fine. That's enough money that you can't really, you don't need to compete with that if you're Ole Miss.
No.
You don't. But what if you hire Pete Golding as your head coach? Okay. You hire Joe Judge as your offensive coordinator, and you try to retain as many of the staff and analysts as you potentially can. I think that would work. I think Pete would be a good head coach. I mean, he's a really intelligent, smart guy, but that would be a way to continue the momentum of what's going on, the tempo, everything. Joe Judge has been coaching quarterbacks this year. He is largely responsible for the development of Trinidad Chambliss and all of that. So that's just a thought, just throw it out in the ether a little bit. Pete Golding and Joe Judge, if you can get both of them, I think you'd be in pretty good shape.
You also got to remember that Corinth's own B. Brown was a highly thought of defensive coordinator before he came to Ole Miss.
And he would probably get the role of defensive coordinator if that happened.
Yeah. And I think Randall Joyner would be a big time keep. Do what we can. He's a wonderful recruiter.
Yeah, I think
fine coach.
The ones that you have to worry about, like I said, we're doing hypotheticals right now. This is if. All the ifs in the world. But Kevin Smith, he's probably likely gone. John Garrison's probably likely gone. The wide receiver coach, who is that?
The guy from Illinois. I can't think, but he's probably gone too.
Yeah, he's gone too, probably. I think Joyner would be the one that you would really have to worry about. The DBs and the linebackers, that's Golding and B. Brown. I don't think it's the worst thing. Instead of that $15 million contract, let him go. Don't match it. And take $7 million of that money and put it towards the NIL fund.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what you do. It's one of those things. If they want him that bad to where they want to do all of this, I mean, just let him go. It's just one of those things. Ole Miss is at the point, at least institutionally, that they can absorb this and move on to the next one. And you might find somebody that is legitimately better, that's not going to go 9-3 with the best roster potentially in all of college football. You know?
Yep.
I just think that people are overshadowing the potential for the playoffs this year over a football coach that has never made the playoffs. And
well, that's true.
Yeah. And I like Lane Kiffin. I really do. I think what he's done for Ole Miss cannot be overstated as good. Okay. That period. But we do need to just kind of pay attention to what's going on, the actual real result. Now he's won, it'll be 10 games, 4 out of the last 5 years. That's a big deal. The golden era and all of Ole Miss, but he needs to make the playoffs, period. He absolutely has to make it to the playoffs. And if Ole Miss does not do it this year, it isn't because Ole Miss couldn't do it. And that'll be how it is spun. That's how that's going to be gaslighted that way. Because Ole Miss had the second best roster in all of college football a year ago. You can look at draft boards, you can look at analysts and all that. They'll tell you all about that. This year, Ole Miss is better set up to go off to the playoff than they were a year ago. With 2 games to go, that they're going to be double-digit favorites. If some reason they choke, it is going to be on Lane, and he's going to wear it because he allowed all of this to swirl out of control.
Exactly. So, you know, as far as that goes, the onus is on him. But I like what you said about having basically $7 million more dollars to spend. You know, Jimmy Johnson famously said, they said he was a great coach. He said, no. He said, it ain't the X's and the O's, brother. It's the Jimmys and the Joes. So if you've got talent on that team, that can overcome some coaching irregularities. And I like what you said about Pete. I think he's a good guy. He's a heck of a recruiter. I think we'd be covered on the defensive end, and then we just have to go out and pay good for an offensive mind.
Yeah, and nail the offensive coordinator hiring.
Right.
And honestly, if we're going to be real about it, go to TCU and get Kendall Briles.
In a heartbeat. You know, that's funny. Brilliant minds think alike. That's who I was thinking.
Yeah, just go to TCU. You did that with Pete Golding, and all of a sudden everything is intact as a coordinator.
Like I said, this isn't my young Ole Miss. You know, this is. I would say this isn't your father's Ole Miss, but I'm a grandfather, so you know, we can compete with anybody in the country now. Yeah,
we can. And like I said, $15 million, that's a lot of money. That is just a lot of money.
That's
and
crazy.
If you're willing to spend it, you're willing to spend it. But $15 million, that's a lot of money. And we'll see. Yeah. We'll see exactly what happens because, like I said earlier on, we have reached the John Sokoloff portion of this broadcast to where it goes out and it's like, hey, he's going to take the job. He's going to do all that. That doesn't mean he's going to do that. It just means that there's craziness popping up all over the place. And the only people talking essentially are the Florida people.
Yeah.
So we'll see exactly how it looks. But
Auburn a couple of years ago, except for the money. I mean, the money figure that we're hearing is crazy.
Yeah. Well, the Auburn contract, when 2022 was for, this is the story that I was told. I don't know how factual it is or anything like that, but this is the story I was told. Lane Kiffin was basically agreed to be the Auburn head coach. He was going to get, I think it was $11 million a year back then. That was a lot of money. but it was all guaranteed. It was a Jimbo Fisher contract to the point where if something went wrong, you owed them just a ton of money. It was like $100 million guaranteed. So Lane was likely going to take that. And then right before, when all the Landry stuff happened, I mean, that's a really cool story and all of that stuff. But also in the background at that same time, I was told that Auburn tried to slip a buyout into his contract. So it was no longer $100 million guaranteed. It was $30 million or $20 million. And all of a sudden the job goes from here to here.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a situation to where we just need to wait and see what's going on, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
So
we'll wait and see, and Ole Miss will be better for it no matter what happens.
All right. So when we come back for the final segment, we're going to talk about why the playoffs are still the most important thing for everybody to think of. And as long as you're thinking about the playoffs, you're doing this correctly, not a football coach. And the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when you win that first $5 bet. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up to play your game with FanDuel. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Tom. Here's the fact of the matter. This is the thing that upsets me a little bit. The thing that we talked about last segment, whatever, there's still so much water left to go under the bridge. It might be aggravating me, but the thing that aggravates me the most is the fact that that noise is overshadowing what could happen.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I've been an Ole Miss fan. My first game that I went to was Steve Sloan's last. So it was 1982. Keith Forcade, pick sixth, Mississippi State that day. But every year it was a wait till next year, wait till next year, wait till next year, every single year. And there's a group of people, and like I said, I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but there's a group of people worrying about a coaching hire that's going to happen in December or January and not this playoff run, because the reality is next year is here and you're throwing that away by letting something overshadow what is happening. And I have a problem with that.
I do too. I think as a fan base, we are letting this distract us. I'm praying that the team and the coaching staff isn't letting it distract them. I think we'll find that out tonight. But as a fan base, we are so used to being let down. Mm-hmm. And I think some people are snake bit because of it. And I think that lends credence to some of the things that are going on as far as the things that are stirring up on the message boards and this and that and the other, and, on social media. But the fact of the matter is we are going to be double-digit favorites in our last two regular season games. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be 11-1 and going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and playing South Florida or Tulane again or JMU on the Oxford Stadium, whether it's with or without Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, and that's what we need to be laser focused on. Mm-hmm. I would prefer we have the same staff and the same team next year.
Yes, me too.
But we can't worry about next year. The future is tonight and the week after.
There's no sense borrowing trouble, because that's what you're doing right now. If you're playing the hypothetical game when you don't know what's going to happen, because the reality of this is until the clock hits 0 in the last game, he's likely not going to make a decision. If he does, then it's already over and he's going to be out the door and gone anyway. So it's just one of those things. Just enjoy the playoffs. Enjoy this run that Trinidad Chambliss and Kewan Lacey and all those guys are giving you, and not worrying about what's going to happen in January or in December. Enjoy the next couple of weeks.
Soak it in.
Yeah.
You know, the thing, you know, we've been in I hate to use this from the Reverend Freeze, but we've been wandering around in the desert for a long time, you know, and I want us to concentrate on this good year and this good time, no matter what happens.
Yeah. They're just, honestly, there's just people that would get $10,000 worth of cash in a paper bag and complain about the paper bag.
That is correct.
That's what we're dealing with at this point. But at the end of the day, it's going to be fine. And we tried to have at least a little bit of a nuanced conversation and at least talk about what should happen if he decided to do that. Nothing's been decided at this point. There's been no news broken. There's been no reports. It's been all gut feelings, but there is a lot of noise. And I think that Keith Carter and I think that Glenn Boyce, they're not going to be caught with their pants down on this. And I think they're ready to go whenever they're ready to go.
I think you're right. Ole Miss is a very good job.
Yep. Just make it public. Whatever that offer is, make it public so every coach in America knows that you're willing to pay $13.5 or $14 million per coach.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just make it public because you want the benefits and the PR of giving that offer, because nobody thinks that you have the money to do it. It would be one of those surprise things. So with the NIL, with all of that stuff, you put that offer out there, let them know about it, and we'll see exactly how that goes. Anyway, Tom, what you got planned this weekend, buddy?
Man, go watch some football, brother.
So, yeah, it's going to be a good weekend to do that, especially with the Bama and Oklahoma game, and then you'll have the Georgia game versus Texas on at the same time as the Ole Miss game, which has a chance to be unbelievably fun looking. It's going to be one of those wish you were there type places.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to love it.
Yeah. Anyway, take care, buddy, and we will talk to you next week, man.
Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy. All right, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we are the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy breaks down the best conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Hotty toddy. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We will see you tomorrow.